Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Marissa Kozlov. It's great to have you with us for today's eMarketer Tech Talk, where we host guests from all areas of media, ad tech, and martech. Today, we're talking about consumer buying behaviors and performance marketing trends for the holiday season. And I'm sure we are all looking forward to the holidays. So I'm looking forward to this great content today. And I'm joined by two very special guests from Rakuten Advertising. First, we have David Gill, Vice President of Consumer Insights. Hi, David.
Hi, Marissa. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. I'm so happy you're here because you told me that you're having some crazy weather where you are right now down in Austin. So we're happy to see that you are safe inside and away from all of that. We also have Mike Chin, Senior Vice President of Retail, also at Rakuten Advertising. Mike, nice to see you too.
Hi, Marissa. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you with us. And we're also so happy to have all of you from our audience with us. So before we get into all of this great content, I want to remind our audience, please keep it conversational with us today. Just use the chat window on the right-hand side of your screen at any time to submit questions. We will do our best to get to as many as possible in the second part of the show today. So please keep those questions coming. We have a great conversation planned for you today. So David, I'm going to pass it to you.
Thank you, Marissa. And thank you everyone for joining. Can you believe it's almost Halloween? How about that? Every year this time, it feels like, you know, the yard toy, the slip and slide? It sort of feels like you've committed to the dive face first onto the slip and slide, but you're going too fast, which is, of course, the way the slip and slide works. But there's no course correction, right? So at the end, you've either got the inflatable baby pool full of water, you've got about 8 feet of maybe damp carpet grass, and then you've got the driveway. So it's anybody's guess where you land. And to me, that's kind of Q4 e-commerce in a nutshell, at least from my experience, that's what it feels like. So today I thought it'd be really useful to go through and focus on, in particular, on what it takes to outperform in this environment. And maybe you can steer on a slip and slide. So to get there, we're going to start with some insights and trends to set the context. Next, we'll talk a little bit about the unique qualities of performance marketing in the holiday period. We're going to follow with a few case studies that illustrate our approach at Rakuten. And then we'll wrap up with a few predictions followed by a live Q&A. So this should be fun. Let's get right to some of the trends. I wanted to start with something familiar, and I know that all of you have in your internal PowerPoints. This is the eMarketer forecast. It shows about 11% growth this year, right? I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but the bigger picture is certainly the health and general diagnosis of the household budget, right? When considering the big sort of buckets of discretionary spend, retail, dining, food and travel, there were just so many major swings in that composition over the course of this year. And I think those are going to continue. So these are all sort of these lingering aftershocks of the pandemic buying behavior that continue to sort of reverberate through the economy. So I like to think of these forecasts a little bit like part of a map. It's the destination. So somehow collectively we're headed to 11% growth, but where are we starting, which matters deeply if you're trying to navigate. Where are you starting? That context matters. And so we'll try to shed a little bit of light on that today. And context from a consumer perspective means some of these things. It means a heavy debt load. It means theft and shrinkage is real. And in many cases, I feel like that negatively impacts the bricks and mortar experience, right? I'm not one to wander around and look for an associate that can unlock the batteries. I don't have time for that. And then, as I mentioned before, budgets are changing. 80% of consumers have said that they would cut spend on non-essentials over the last 6 months. So that's pretty significant. From a tailwinds perspective, people love spending money in Q4, right? And unemployment is very, very low. So a longer shopping season really might play to both of these factors in an advantaged way. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention AI. You know, we've come a very, very long way from the recommendation engine, you might also like in a very short amount of time. I feel like it's sort of a party trick, but it's fun and it's mostly useful. And I think consumers are going to be using it this year. And then lastly, I think you'll recall there was some frustration around inventory shortages that have largely been corrected. And so consumers should have full assortment catalogs available to purchase. So back to the roadmap and where are we? So this is a fairly standard diagnosis that we do for clients all the time. From left to right, we're looking at year-to-date change for each metric. I think year-to-date was up through the end of September. As many of you are keenly aware, comps to 21 and 22 can be unflattering. So you can see by the three gray bars here, the buyers and orders are both down 3 and 2% respectively. And so mathematically, it's very hard to get to positive GMS comps. That's just true. As we move further to the right here, AOV is down 3.6%, and dollars per unit has overcome even inflationary pressure to fall by 4%. Now, I looked into that one, and you can pin it a little bit on cheaper tablets. There's a plethora of sub $100 tablets in electronics, and so that's driving a big part of that. But the only real positive KPIs that we see versus 2022 are units per order, which is stuff in the basket, and orders per buyer, which is in some sense a frequency, increased frequency. And these trends sort of run inversely with average order value in a tighter economy. So I hear you saying, Dave, this webinar is a bummer so far. Where's the winning? Well, firstly, thanks for remembering my name. But secondly, look, we've made it to the turn. And I can tell you, I looked at the latest data this morning, literally a half an hour before this call, and we're up on orders around 8% in October, year over year. Buyers are up slightly. It could be an early bellwether, particularly when you take into account the trajectory that we're headed. So this one shows year over year change from a dollars perspective for all categories. And my hypothesis here is that spending patterns are improving with pretty steady and tempered inflation and a strong jobs market. So we're headed towards growth, but what you can really see here is we definitely need a big quarter to get us to 11.3%. Electronics needs to perform very well. It's usually the largest dollar volume, but still recovering from down cycles. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but there's intent, very, very high intent for apparel, toys, and gift cards, and we'll need them all to reach expectations. So where's the starting line? This is sort of a Q4 starting line, if you will. Year-to-date orders versus last year. Orders is an appropriate way to look across categories since it negates price point for us. And you can see that groceries driving more transactions year over year, along with pet and auto. My God, people love their pets. These also happen to be the same categories that have the least Q4 contribution to overall sales. So it kind of makes sense that they're relatively up versus these other categories. In the middle of the pack, we find health and beauty, home, and electronics, three very, very large categories that should turn up for the holiday. 32% of apparel spend is in Q4. Same with electronics, about a third of electronic spend is in Q4. So while this last third of the category has had a little bit of a harder year, I think a lot of it can be explained in cyclical patterns. I'd also call out that jewelry and flowers are fairly unique verticals with significant volatility across different price points and brands. So I wouldn't read too much into those two. The KPIs of luxury sort of maintain their own dynamics that should probably be its own webinar. Let's get that one on the calendar, Marissa. So I wanted to cut to the chase about the worst kept secret in affiliate. It works, y'all. There's a few categories, a top few categories from our network in Q3 that are showing same-store GMS growth by category. And our clients are outperforming in a number of different categories, 10% in apparel, 11% in toys. Travel spend has been in growth mode pretty much all year. If you watched Andrew Lipsman's talk a couple of weeks back from eMarketer, he talked about one of these key tensions in holiday and this push and pull between a strong labor market and historically high debt. And we're in a situation where consumers have disposable income, but they're more inclined than ever to seek out deals. So I want to hand it over to Mike to talk a little bit about how the consumer journey looks like in our network and what drives outcomes like we see here.
Thanks, Dave. So before we dive further into our network data, you should know that in our network, publishers are categorized generally based on their primary business model or customer-facing value propositions. So, for example, you have coupon publishers whose audiences are focused on the redemption of a code or a deal, such as a Slick Deals. Loyalty or rewards publishers whose audiences look to earn cash or miles or points on every purchase. Sub-network and content, which are sites or collections of sites that are focused on particular products, brands, or verticals, and so on. Now, when we look at this data, which is share of clicks and orders by our publisher category by year from 2020 to 2023, there is a clear shift in how consumers are engaging with brands via the publishers in our ecosystem. So clicks from the coupon vertical, for example, fell from 22% share to 16% share. And loyalty fell at a similar rate. But conversely, sub-networking content grew by 10% from 2020 to 2023, and long tail grew share by over 50%. So interestingly, shifts in share for orders are similar to what we see in clicks over the same period, but the lion's share of conversion continues to take place on coupon and loyalty sites. So this all suggests that even in our network, content, which includes influencer to some degree, is driving more and more engagement, but consumers still have their preferred path to conversion.
Thanks, Mike. So let's talk a little bit about Q4. The 800-pound gorilla in Q4 is, of course, Cyber 5 week, right? Cyber 5 week looks a little bit different in affiliate. So you may recall over all of ecom, Cyber Monday is generally the largest shopping day. But if you keep in mind the consumer, on Friday, Black Friday, the consumer mindset is so deal focused that it's actually affiliate's biggest day. We ran a survey a couple of months ago. 59% of shoppers feel like Black Friday is the best day to shop for discounts, followed by only 15% Cyber Monday. So what this means is a lot of things, but customers are telling us that things like free shipping and product discounts are definitely the keys to higher conversion. Saturday and Monday are definitely in our top three. But I also wanted to mention a couple of tentpole events. The day before Prime Day last year was one of our top 10 days. And increasingly, these other large retailers are counter-programming or hosting or defining their own events, like Target Circle Week, Wayfair's Way Day, the Nordstrom sale, Sephora, et cetera. Suggestion here is to use those tent poles to your advantage because it does draw more buyers into the market. Some of my research on the side shows that these events really do drive a lift in meaningful audiences and sales across dozens of different merchants, particularly in health and beauty, electronics, and appliances. So I mentioned earlier about the category mix for consumers, but can you speak to how that changes a little bit during holiday?
Definitely can, Dave. So a good portion of the data that we've looked at so far has been year to date. And for those of us with a finger on the pulse of retail, we know there's been a meaningful shift in spend away from goods to services, experiences, even revenge travel this year. But as we're now well into Q4 and on the cusp of holiday, shopping behaviors will shift from buying for self to buying from others. We asked 15,000 consumers where they plan to spend this holiday season, and the responses are actually very much in line with what marketers would historically expect. So 63% will gift apparel or footwear, 58% will gift toys. Gift cards, always a consistent holiday performer, and 49% of our respondents indicated they'd be spending here. Beauty items such as skincare gift sets, alcohol, and gaming products are also expected to be other top gift categories. So if you're playing in these categories, our survey data should come as good news. Despite those changes, in behavior contributing to relatively flat growth in apparel and beauty, and electronics being down 15% this year, consumers are clearly signaling a bit of a return to old norms. Perhaps also welcome news for retailers. Nearly 90% of consumers have indicated they'll be focused on promotions, coupon codes, and other offers when considering who they'll be buying from. So our survey respondents have also said they've said they'll be back to buying goods this holiday season. But when will they be buying? Over the last several years, it's safe to say we've seen holiday creep. So by next Wednesday morning, I fully expect to see candy on sale for half off, right next to Christmas decorations on the shelves. But retailers have worked to strengthen holiday performance by pulling sales forward. And it's really been a long time since Black Friday sales were limited to actually Black Friday. And it's not unheard of for those events to even start 2 weeks before. But the vast majority of our survey respondents, as illustrated by this heat map, are telling us that their holiday shopping is largely going to start in November and finish but before Christmas in mid-December. So in the top left corner, you'll see we did have some early birds in our survey who said that they started their gift purchasing as early as July and plan to finish before November 1. And there is a small cohort that does their gift shopping post-holiday to take advantage of clearance events. But the data shows that this year, we should expect to see activity ramping now, and we'll again see that sweet spot in late November and continuing through the middle of December before shipping cutoffs. So speaking of sweet spots, we've been talking a lot about that Cyber 5 compression period, but that's very much a US-focused retail perspective. And as we're a global network, we wanted to keep in mind key global shopping dates as well as those key events around which shopping happens. So in November, Singles Day, for example, has evolved to become a global self-gifting holiday. While in contrast, we have a particular focus on Black Friday and Cyber Monday here in the US. But come December, you find a number of global gifting or shopping events, such as Nicholas Day on December 6th in Europe, the 8 days of Hanukkah, Christmas, and of course, Boxing Day, which is celebrated around the world. And chances are those customers who go big for New Year's probably found their party attire sometime in the prior few weeks. So we've run through a ton of data, a ton of consumer insights on what we've observed year to date, as well as what we expect as we head into holiday and close out 2023. But at the end of the day, performance comes as a result of bringing together that data, those insights, good strategy, and better execution. And we want to showcase some great examples of how we've done that for our clients. We'll start with All Saints and their agency Neo Media World, who saw an opportunity to extend brand awareness and drive performance in the US and Canada, and partnered with Rakuten Advertising to do so through their affiliate program. Through diversification of their publisher mix and ongoing optimization, we were actually able to drive revenue growth of 24%, with a 30% improvement in efficiency, and also saw some unexpected changes in shopping behavior, namely a 95% increase in AOV, which prompted some further thinking around what was different about the customers that we acquired.
Yeah, and I think, Mike, on this one, I'd point out this whole trend around personalization really applies to audiences as well. So personal interests vary, right? I'm a 50-year-old white guy in Texas, so yes, grills, Yeti coolers, crap for the boat, all of that. But I also like cooking. I play bluegrass guitar. I listen to rap. So these interests all manifest themselves in my own personal purchase graph. And so we're able to use that at scale for segmentation. And so for All Saints, we discovered quite a few unique patterns among their buyers. Namely, they spent around a third of their apparel wallet at Nordstrom, Saks, and Bloomingdale's. They also scored very high, though, for shopping at Revolve and RealReal. So there are some values associated with circular economy buyers that we were able to use, and we can kind of find that loyal cohort of likely customers from within the brand profile. And then secondly, I would just say, important for our clients is that we calibrate results. So All Saints brand year to date, market wide, was up about 9% in dollars, about 14% average order value. So this campaign definitely outperformed for the client.
Um, Camp Chef. Camp Chef is a seller of grills and outdoor cooking gear. And for some households, dad runs the grill and he's the target customer. But we saw an opportunity to solve for a relative under-penetration of female shoppers. So while affiliate marketing is certainly at the core of what we do at Rakuten Advertising, we also support clients in paid search, paid social, and display. And we took this challenge on in partnership with Camp Chef. So over a 5-month period, we ran campaigns across these tactics focused on female shoppers. We leveraged the right creative assets in messaging and market. And we even sent some of our female team members to Utah to join a number of content creators and media partners in what effectively was a giant grill off. We delivered on our promise. We increased our reach by 13% among this cohort. We had a 2,000% increase in traffic and really at a fraction of the expected cost.
Yeah, so I love grills. I already mentioned where I live. So this was a fun one. Across all of e-commerce, just the background on this one. Across all e-commerce, you probably know this, females are responsible for about 57 to 60% of all dollars and just over half buyers. In the grills market, females are only 40% of dollars and half of buyers. So there's clearly an opportunity here, but where do we find the audience? And the answer turned out to be in this interest graph. So concentrations of female sports and outdoor buyers at merchants like Patagonia and REI and frankly even Lulu created this cohort of people that was big enough to target. And the bespoke sort of messaging around this likely cohort was able to drive these efficiencies in CPC because you can focus on the grill as simply a component of a more outdoor lifestyle. And that was really the key.
Yep. I'll shift gears a little bit back to apparel here. So Eileen Fisher came to us with a challenge that's common to a lot of retailers, namely establishing the brand outside of that core customer and finding that next generation of customer. So audience targeting is really key in these cases. And we executed prospecting and retargeting campaigns in parallel to drive qualified leads to the site. And we drove huge growth during the campaign, a 66% increase in traffic and more than doubling sales.
Yeah, our research into Eileen Fisher, which we've done for a couple of years now, for this campaign showed that really among that younger target demo, I don't recall exactly what it is, but dresses actually account for basically 20 cents out of every apparel dollar that they spent. And when you look at where else they shopped, it was like Everlane and Madewell were at least two of the brands that had a pretty strong presence in a cohort. So we're able to learn like what those shoppers in particular want, how often they bought from those merchants and brands, and then what price points were they buying at to sort of create efficiencies in the campaign that drove the results that you see here. I'll also say, interestingly, we can sort of see differences between new and repeat customers, which is something that I hear talked about more and more these days because not all customers are created equal. You don't want some of these customers that are sort of one and done. You want the loyalists. And so that's really what we focused on for Eileen Fisher.
That is a great segue. So speaking of new customers, Mac looked to us to help find new customers in a cost-effective way, which really meant onboarding new partners with audiences that behaved differently in comparison to their established partner base. So we actually saw white space in the buy now, pay later arena, where partners like Afterpay are not only attracted to a Gen Z cohort, but also offered segmenting and targeting options to help Mac reach that specifically luxury beauty customer. The sales growth was phenomenal at almost 200% over goal, but even more impressive, half of those sales actually came from net new customers.
Yeah, and so as you said, buy now, pay later certainly has proven to be an effective tool that removes friction from checkout. And arguably, that's one of the most important factors in conversion is friction at checkout. It's also found tremendous traction among younger buyers as a simple credit vehicle. So For next year's webinar, let's talk about how this trend impacted consumer debt. And so there you'll see the sequel. Hopefully it doesn't resemble Meg 2, but we'll see next year. Another note from Marissa, we'll get on the chart. So these are some of the outcomes when you combine affiliate and intelligence from Rakuten advertising. A couple of key takeaways next and a couple of predictions. Knowing that these trends will help you prepare for evolving customer landscape in the sort of next era of e-commerce. Here we go. So year-to-date performance, sort of obviously notwithstanding, anticipation for holiday is high. Affiliate channel seems well positioned against consumer sentiment towards deals and offers. I have a riff here, an ad lib riff. I looked this morning at some channel data for just October. You saw the scary slides earlier. Get ready. Order volume, first 3 weeks of October. Overall, it's up 8%. Apparel's up 8%. Health and beauty, up 35%. Toys, up 26%. Home, up 25%. Jewelry and watches, up 98%, you guys, first 3 weeks of October. So things are looking good. The second prediction here, Cyber 5, or sort of takeaway, Cyber 5 is the Super Bowl, obviously, of e-commerce, but there's all these other occasions that deserve consideration. The international holidays, sporting events, and these sort of promo paloozas that every large retailer seems to be launching at least once a year, if not twice or 3 times. Maybe the most important one here, sort of outthinking your competitors with some of the stuff that we've showed you today, insights and tactics that are highly personalized. So people are unique, and the smartest strategists that I know are very precise with their campaign targets and very, very deliberate about these highly specific audiences that they're after. Last thing really is about full funnel. You know, it's not one size fits all. There's not an allocation that makes sense for everybody. But I think my point would be to augment affiliate programs with branding campaigns. You still have to drive sort of the top funnel activity. Affiliate is amazing at conversion, but it really does perform best with upper funnel support. And then finally, a couple of predictions. I was going to have a puppet read this one because it's a little spicy. I feel like Amazon's share of e-com, at least from a GMS perspective, is going to be flat next year or possibly fall a little bit for the first time ever. A lot of reasons why I think that. I'll sort of say I think Prime is not as Prime anymore. I feel like Walmart and Target have caught up with regard to efficiency, consumer sentiment sort of starting to favor these brand relationships, et cetera. So that's sort of prediction number one. I think as far as growth goes, I think the growth winner might actually be personal care and beauty next year. There's just so many brand loyalists in the space. And I think successful companies will pivot there. I think about Dyson, done a great job moving across categories, using that brand to sort of fill a niche in hair dryers and air purifiers, et cetera. I think about companies like Manscaped, who have found an impressive niche to sort of offer male grooming products across a bunch of different subcategories. So I really feel like we're just at the tip of the iceberg as far as personalization meets beauty. My runner-up here, I think, is off-price, and this was also something that Andrew mentioned the other day on a call. But I think companies like TJ Maxx, you know, Saks Off Fifth, Nordstrom Rack, et cetera, those guys should have a pretty good year next year. And then finally, the runner-up, my second runner-up, is generally China. You know, I actually couldn't believe, I thought there was some mistakes in the data when I started looking at volume from Temu. And when I started to see Shein like show up in the top 10, you know, apparel companies, I thought the data was wrong. It was not wrong. Those two companies in particular are coming on strong. Temu was very, very aggressive with advertising. So I actually think they're going to make some traction next year. And we can't wait to see if that happens. And Marissa, I can't wait to see if we have some questions about all this stuff. And I also hope they're mostly for Mike. So go ahead.
I'll try to push as many to Mike as possible. But as you were talking today, I was also jotting down in my calendar all of those times that you said you wanted to come back for next year. So we look forward to that because this was a fantastic presentation today. Thank you both so much for sharing different trends, especially at the top in orders and the different categories, also with deal seekers and how those compare to last year. And of course, how those all tie into what we're predicting now, or what you are predicting for holiday sales this year. The case studies were excellent. All Saints, brands that we're all familiar with, Eileen Fisher, Cam Chef Mac. So again, thank you so much for all of that great content, and especially the predictions. And maybe next time the puppet will show up, as you said, David. All right, so let's get to the Q&A. David, I'll try to send as many to Mike as possible. Mike, first one's for you. How does an affiliate customer behave differently from what I might see in other channels?
By the way, thanks, Dave, for sacrificing me. I think the affiliate customer may be a little bit more promotion oriented, shall we say, right? We talked about that for Q4 specifically. But again, the data shows that discovery is happening via affiliate as well. So I think my experience, I think the learning is that customers over time develop their own preferred ways of discovering new brands, discovering new products, and then they have their own preferred ways of converting, as the data also showed. I mean, I think we all know someone, have a relative, a family friend who still types in Nordstrom.com into a Google search instead of going directly to the site. That behavior isn't going to change. Crazy as it sounds. So I think the affiliate customer, other than being a little bit more deal focused, I think you will find that the affiliate customer there's an inherent trust built into this industry in terms of the way that customers engage. And so they like to go to influencers that now show up in affiliate programs. They like to go to deal sites to price compare and see, do I really want 2-for-1 on polos, or do I just want to buy a cheaper polo? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think from what you just described, it seems like customer may end up at the same place, but it could be a pretty roundabout way to get there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Mike, another one for you. How do new browser and privacy changes impact affiliate marketing?
I think it's something that we're all watching, right? Ever since GDPR and then CCPA and all of the updates that Apple has made. Consumer privacy is clearly top of mind for many. It's top of mind for us as well. Affiliate and for our clients specifically, I think we can say that we are. I don't want to say that we are 100% future-proofed, but we are well prepared, and we've been able to make the pivots to ensure that we're able to maintain tracking while still adhering to all of the new privacy regulations that have come out. When it comes to browsers, ad blockers, and this stuff isn't necessarily new, so I think we've navigated it for a long time as an industry, but I think we feel confident in partnering with our clients in making sure that we are able to still reach that right customer with the right message and the right product.
All right, good to know. Thank you. And privacy continues to be such a hot topic. So thanks for that perspective. David, the next one is for you. We have a viewer who is working for a luxury retail brand, and they ask, why should I consider investing in affiliate marketing?
Oh, well, luxury is an interesting category for affiliate. And I think there was some press maybe 9 months ago about this interesting nature of the luxury buyer, where you really have two ends of the income spectrum buying luxury. You have people that actually are sort of upper income buyers, but then you've got these aspirational buyers, the Gen Zs that need to have their brands, and now they've got this avenue to buy them with buy now, pay later, and they're absolutely doing that. So the luxury market is surprisingly robust in affiliate. And the number I literally just mentioned 5 minutes ago, I couldn't believe it. I double checked it, but jewelry and watches up 98% in terms of orders in the first few weeks of October. That's insanity. So that tells me that's going to be a pretty hot category for this holiday.
Wow, that's exciting. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that continues into the next few months here. Mike, our next viewer says that they're new to affiliate. How much of my performance marketing budget should I allocate to the affiliate channel?
Good question. I think The sales penetration may vary from brand to brand, but what you typically see is anywhere from 5 to 15% of sales from a healthy marketing mix coming from an affiliate program. So how that correlates to budget um, may depend, but I think the key there is that for a mature business, for a retailer that may have been around for 20 plus years, I think you can expect a healthy penetration of sales coming from your affiliate program. There are certainly things that you can do to dial that up or dial that down. But in my personal experience, that 5 to 15% number is pretty tried and true.
Okay, thank you. Helpful benchmark right there.
You
David,
know,
oh
Marissa,
yeah, please.
sorry to interrupt. I wanted to plug your 2023 affiliate study that just got released yesterday, which has an amazing chart on what people's impressions are about affiliate spend. That I was just looking through this morning. So,
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm glad that you read that hot off the press here at eMarketer. So thanks for the plug. David, so I have another question for you because you did talk about some of those key shopping holidays. Can you expand on how or why brands should use tentpole sales dates like Prime Day, Way Day? How can they take advantage of these days?
yeah, so it's really about just being in market with the right media and the right offers around that. The driving sort of factor there is the buyers are in market, and so when buyers are in market, they're not just going to the Way Day sale. They've decided that they need some home furnishings. The Way Day sale happens to have good deals, but that doesn't mean they're not going to visit other retailer sites. And so they will go visit IKEA. This will give them some other ideas about Ashley Home Store, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really what these tentpole events, what I like about them is they draw the category buyers in at levels that don't normally happen. And so that's really what brands and retailers should sort of stick to, is knowing that, okay, we're going to get some increased reach just by sort of the halo effect of these events going on. And so I'd advise, for general merchant retailers, I know for Target, like Circle Week, there's different categories by day. And so if you have that sort of roadmap in front of you and you're in home furnishings, to sort of heavy up on media for the day that they're going to sort of promote home furnishing. So it's really about having that roadmap in front of you and making sure that you're live and in market with all the right offers and all the right sort of connections to the right publishers for when it all goes down. Because a lot of times it happens in 24 hours. And if you miss the window, you miss the window. So that's important.
Those are great points. Thank you. Mike, our next viewer says that they hear of other brands combining search and affiliate budgets. Is that common? Is that something that you see frequently with your clients?
We do. We do. I think, particularly this year, I think it's been challenging to find that customer and drive those transactions. So, marketers we've seen be more nimble with their budgets, and I think what we've seen is, affiliate really the expense there comes from demand. So if there's more demand out there on the table, why wouldn't you shift that budget to where you're able to capture it? We do see blending specifically between search and affiliate. It's, if you take the traditional funnel view, they're a little bit further down. But I think it comes down to where are you getting your most efficient spend and where are you getting those desired customers.
Okay, thank you. We are going to take one more question today. David, we loved your predictions at the very end. So here's a forward-thinking follow-up question. What retail verticals do you think will grow in 2024?
Yes. I feel strongly about health and beauty. As I said on sort of that last slide, I sort of think that's my number one. I think probably number two, it's jury's out on whether or not electronics is going to be next year. One of the things that concerns me about electronics is just that the price points are falling. So you saw in one of those slides where, average order value, market wide was down, or average unit value rather down, 4% or something. That's because electronics is dragging it down. And so I think from a vertical perspective, it's probably 50-50 whether or not electronics, next year's the replacement cycles are coming back around. So I think that's pretty likely to be up in there. And then I think, people are still equipping their home. I've followed home improvement pretty steadily over the last few years. And I think it's gone through this interesting transition from, literally like the stuff that you like wood. You remember when wood was like 10 times the price is what it should be, right? And so it went literally from like you built the addition, then you put the fixtures in the addition, and then you put the carpet and the patio table outside with a solo stove and all this stuff. So I feel like that kind of ran a cycle, and I feel like it's probably due for another cycle in one of those sort of subcategories. So I think there's some categories of home, probably more in decor. Unclear if we've run the whole gamut on outdoor furniture, but that was certainly big over the summer. And so, yeah, I think those are probably the main ones that sort of come to mind for me. Beauty's always big, and in our network, beauty is huge. So I think that health and beauty and personal care, sometimes those categories get a little bit conflated, but they're all sort of running in the same lane. And I think those are due to continue their amazing growth.
Okay, well, great predictions. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing how those come to fruition next year, and look forward to maybe some future data that you may have on those categories. So David and Mike, thank you again for all of this great content, for being here, and of course, for answering all of those questions from our audience. It was really good to see you.
Good to see you too, Marissa. Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. You're welcome. So before we wrap up, I'm just going to take a moment to tell you a little bit more about eMarketer's upcoming events. Join us next week, Friday, November 3rd, for Attention, our half-day live virtual summit focused on trends and predictions for 2024. Registration is open on our events page. And while you're on that same page, you can also register for upcoming live analyst and tech talk webinars. Finally, keep an eye on your email for the link to today's recording. Thank you all for your time. And thanks again to David, Mike, the team at Rakuten Advertising, and our Studio II crew, our production team behind the scenes, for making this webinar possible. We'll see you all on the next Tech Talk.